Critical misses, attack rolls, saving throws, alchemy, crafting, wild shaping, puzzles. There is so much in Baldur's Gate 3, and today we're going to go through a bunch of tips and tricks for the full version of the game to get you going. So let's go! Put your own tips and tricks in the comments down below so we can all help each other. We'll start with some world exploration stuff. Now, the world is filled with secrets, and this also means that your character is going to make a lot of skill checks. Now, anytime you see your character make a skill check, there is going to be something there. Like if you fail the skill check, you know that there was something there. Everyone in your party can actually make that same skill check. So you can always change the people that you have with you if everyone else failed, and then they can potentially pass that check so you can actually see what's there, whether it be a chest or a trap or a burrow hole or something else entirely. Now, you will only ever roll a dice next to a chest if that chest is trapped or if it's a mimic. So if everyone in your party fails a perception check the moment you walk up next to a chest, you know that it's going to be trapped, even if you can't actually disarm it because you didn't pass the perception check. But if you do pass the check, you can obviously disarm it. If you don't, you can move your party away from it and then just have one person there and sacrifice them to the trap so you can still get what's actually in there. Now, all of these skills and everything are sort of relevant to something in the world. So strength allows you to move objects, which is really useful for certain puzzles. Dexterity skills like sleight of hand are used for like lockpicking and stealth. Wisdom is used for like perception, survival, finding things in the world like hidden chests and like burrows. Intelligence is mostly used in conversations and understanding different elements of lore or getting more information about things, like racking your brain to see, oh, you know, I totally remember about this random character from X, or, you know, this sort of a thing. Like it definitely comes into play in that way. The map is filled with a lot of burrow holes and tiny crevices that larger creatures can't fit into. So having a druid in your party that can wild shape it, or a smaller character like a halfling or a gnome or something that can fit in some of these crevices, is absolutely worth doing. Now, if you don't have a druid or you don't want to play as a druid, you can just summon one from withers as a hireling and then have them wild shape into a cat or those sort of smaller creatures. So you can still do those things if you want to, and then just dismiss the companion afterwards and just like leave them at your camp and only use them for those times you need it. But druids and essentially the hirelings in general are a great way to get access to different spells or different mechanics that you don't necessarily have as part of your core party. Like using the druid example again, you can teach them fly to access like high areas. But I will say, even with this sort of mechanic, that you will miss content. You will make certain choices, you will fail skill checks. It's just part of the journey. Like lean into it, embrace the chaos, and have fun. New to the full game is Alchemy, which is a massive buff to your overall effectiveness inside and outside of combat. So all over the world now, you'll find ingredients that you can use to craft various things in the Alchemy menu. Now, the most common thing that you'll craft here is definitely going to be healing potions, and the purpose of those is pretty obvious to what they sort of give you in terms of buffs. But there are other benefits as well, not only in terms of potions, like being able to say, you know, animal speaking, but you've got elixirs, which are potions, sort of like potions, I guess, that you can take, which will give you various buffs. I like the bark skin potion here because essentially, or elixir, sorry, essentially what you can do with this is on something like a mage character, you can have them consume this and it will increase their armor class to 16 until the next long rest. So if you're, say, running Gale, or you're yourself are a mage character, it increases your armor class so you avoid getting hit more often. Grenades can be thrown at enemies to deal some AoE damage, and then you've got coatings as well that you can put on your weapons. So you can either coat them in poison to deal extra damage, or you could coat them in things like oil of accuracy to give you a higher chance of hitting with increasing your overall attack roll. But most of these actions that come from these alchemy potions are actually bonus actions. So if in combat you have a character that, say, doesn't really have a way to use their bonus action every single combat turn, maybe something like a barbarian or something like that, that's mostly just going to attack with their action and then not really use their bonus action, having these options to, say, you know, coat your weapon in oil or do something like that is really beneficial into combat, just so you're not wasting those actions, but also to give you benefits in combat as well, which is definitely well worth having. By the way, the Baldurs Gate 3 community wiki, bg3.wiki, is a great resource for things like this and any other sort of information that you may be looking for. They've got plenty of good stuff on there. So moving on to withers and the hirelings and respecking. Now, withers can respec your class in the full game. Just by talking to him, you can ask him that you need to change class. You don't actually have to change your class here. Just by doing this and using up that 100 gold cost, it seems like it's always 100 gold based on my experience, but you can then just pick the same class and same ability points and everything, but you can then just go through the leveling process again. So if you wanted to change something, like if you want to change a feat that you chose or something like that, you can do that, but you can change your class in that way as well. But you can also hire hirelings from withers. Now, these are just like other people that you can hire that don't have backstories or really care about what's happening in the world. They're essentially just like party members that will fight for you in combat, and there's one of these for each of the classes, which helps, like we mentioned with that druid example earlier. If you need someone to, say, talk to animals or get into crevices, or you just want to help in that regard, then you can definitely do that. But you get withers from a location very early in the game called the Dank Crypt, just near the overgrown ruins. You will see this very, very early in the game. You need to go down here and you'll be able to perceive a button, press the button, open the crypt, and withers is inside that crypt. Now you will, if you don't do this, he will pop up at your camp at a later point as well, but it's just worth pointing out, like, if you want to get him earlier, and also just to make sure you have him, is to go and do this. This is super early in the game, so it's not like a massive spoiler if you just go here and grab him for your party. Let's go through some quick combat stuff to make sure that you're covered across all of the things that happen in Baldur's Gate 3, which is a little different to other games. Now, firstly, something that if you aren't sure what's happening, or say something happens you're not sure, you can click the little option on the bottom right hand side to bring up like the combat log, and you can then hover over anything like attack rolls, damage rolls, saving throws, and all the other nonsense that happens in the game, just so you can kind of keep up with what's going on, because there's going to be a lot of saving throws and critical hits and misses and various things and statuses and stuff that's like being thrown around, and it's sometimes hard to keep up with. Now, what you will need to know about attacking in Baldur's Gate 3 is, just like in D&D, two things happen. You have attack rolls and then damage rolls. The first that happens is the attack roll. Now, this will roll a 1d20 plus any modifiers that you may have against the target's armor class. Now, if you roll above that armor class, the attack will hit. If you roll below it, the attack will miss, and it may critically miss if it rolls a 1, or critically hit if it rolls a 20. Now, after that point, then you'll roll the damage dice. Now, the damage dice will actually determine how much damage that effect actually does. So when you're looking at any weapon that you may have, it'll always say like 1d6 or 1d8 plus whatever types of bludgeoning or slashing or what have you sort of damage, and it's the same for spells as well. On top of this, there are saving throws. Now, anytime certain effects or spells are used against you, a saving throw will be made. Now, depending on the type of spell, it will be a saving throw based on an ability. It could be wisdom, intelligence, what have you, and then you'll either pass or fail that based on that spell and the parameters, and then if you fail it, you'll take those effects. If you save against that, then you'll pass those effects. It's the same as if you walk into like a poison cloud or something like that. You'll see these saving throws throw up as well. A couple of other combat things. I highly recommend that you examine enemies whenever you face them. Enemies, especially like higher level enemies or enemies of all sorts of different types, will have unique resistances. So paying attention to those resistances, whether it be slashing, bludgeoning damage, or even certain types of magic, will help you determine what type of effects are actually better to be used against that target, because it will definitely come into play. Like, I've had it many times that I've used like a fire spell and then realized, oh great, you know, like I've just hit fire on something that's immune to fire. I've wasted my action. So definitely be considerate of checking what enemies are actually efficient against. And stealth is just as OP as it was in the early access. Stealth attacks obviously have advantage. A rogue like Astarion actually having stealth attacks will gain like heaps of damage from that. So just paying attention, especially if you're like thinking, oh, you know, maybe this encounter is going to end up in combat. You can use the character select to switch to a different character, line them up and say stealth them a little bit further away, so then if the combat doesn't like start, then you can sort of walk up on your own and actually have them engage in the encounter and get that first initial strike before the real combat actually breaks out. Now, if you're not sure who you should run in your party, I've got a full video talking about party composition, but it really is entirely up to you, and I'm going to have plenty more content coming out for Baldur's Gate 3 breaking down more things in depth like combat and different mechanics as well as the classes, so make sure you keep an eye on the channel. Thank you guys for watching this video till the end. Thank you to our members for supporting the channel. My name is NorZZa, and I hope you have a great day.